Tutorial on
First, you
how
need
to
your
wig your
thread,
closure
your
hair.
T-pins, your cap, your scissors, your needle, and the star of the event, your wigs. Firstly, you have to wear your cap to the dummy head and pin it. Rightly pin it, not too backward, not too forward, just at the middle. Next, you go in with your closure and pin it 1 inch above the placement of your cap. You stretch it and you pin it at the front first. You stretch and pin. We're stretching and pinning because we want a flat closure. We don't want a lumpy closure. We want it very flat. So after pinning the front and you see that it is sitting right, you turn to the back and also pin the back of the closure. You stretch also and pin. You stretch the back and pin. I'm emphasizing on the stretching because it is very important to have a flat closure. You don't want to wear a wig and the closure is very high. It doesn't fit. So you stretch it and you pin it. After stretching it, if you stretch it properly, you'll see that your closure will be looking flat, like it has already been sewn, even though it hasn't. If you do it right, this is what your closure is supposed to look like. If you do it properly, it should be looking like this. Now we're moving on to sewing the closure. When sewing your closure, please, as you're sewing, ensure you are dragging it a bit, not too much, because if you drag too much, you might tear your closure. You just drag a bit to get a very flat closure. All these things we are doing is to ensure that the closure is flat. You sew in your needle into the lace and you drag a bit. That's how you sew your closure, and that's how you get a very flat closure. Now this is me sewing the back of the closure. You have to sew the 3 sides of the closure and ensure that your sewing is neat. Don't take too much, don't be in a hurry. Take it little by little and ensure you sew it properly. This is me sewing my closure. We're still sewing. Now we're done sewing the closure. Now this is what our closure looks like after sewing. Do you see how neat it is and how rightly placed it is? Now we're going to move on to sewing our wig, the main event, sewing of the wig. Now we're going with the first bundle. When sewing your wig, be very careful. Try and measure as you're sewing because you don't want to finish the bundles when you're not done with the hair, so you have to measure it. So first, personally, I like to sew in my thread into my cap before I continue wigging. It's a personal thing. You don't have to. You can start going with the wig immediately, but I like to sew in my thread first into the cap before I continue my wigging. So this is me sewing in my thread into the cap and I'm done. So now we're going to sew in the wig. When sewing the edge of the wig, please be very careful. You have to drag it a little more because you want a flat edge. We don't want a bumpy wig at all. We don't. Bumpy wigs tend to lose on time. They won't last too long, so you take it little by little and you drag. You see how I'm dragging mine just to ensure that it is flat. I'm taking my time doing it because I don't want a bumpy wig. Now you're looping your thread into your cap, into your wig, and you drag. Do you see how I'm dragging and pressing at the same time? Because I want it flat. I'm really emphasizing on it because it is very important to not have a bumpy wig or a lumpy wig. You're sewing and I'm doing the same for the other edge. Now take a look at it and see how I'm going to drag it after sewing. Do you see it? This is me dragging it. Drag it and you sew. That's how you get a flat edge. The main thing about wigging is it has to be flat. Everything about it has to be flat. Your sewing has to be tight, neat, and flat. It's very important. See how I'm pressing it because I want it flat. Now we're going to continue in our sewing. Looping your thread into the cap and you sew. Although we're still at the edge, I just want to see how it's done. You see how I'm pressing because I'm still at the edge. Now we're done with that. Now to this point, you have to be careful when sewing this part of the wig, because you see this folded part. Don't just sew it like that. When you're taking it, take it little by little, because if you take much of it, when you're done sewing, the cap becomes tight. And if your client or the owner of the wig has a big head, the cap will not fit. So you have to be careful when sewing that part. And this other part, we are done with the first bundle and we are onto the second one. We're going to attach it to this first bundle. When sewing this part, you don't sew it on top of each other. Don't. But they should be very close. You can barely tell the difference between the both of them. You don't sew them on top of each other. Don't. But so close that if you check out mine, you'll see that I'm sewing very close. You will not see any space in between them. That's how it's done. You be careful. Take it little by little, and your sewing will be top notch. Trust me. So this is me still wigging my hair. We're almost done with the hair at this point. I'm just showing you my wigging. Now this is the closing part of the wig, where you sew the last part of the closure to the last part of the wig to the closure. Be very careful. Don't sew the last wig on top of the closure, no, but it should be very close also. Now we're done with the sewing of the wig. We've gone round and we are going to maintain our closure. For maintaining your closure, you need your comb, you need your hot comb, you need your hair wax, and your tweezer or plucking pin, like it's commonly called. You part your closure to give it the neat parting. Then you begin to pluck or pick, like you call it. Be very careful when plucking so you don't tear your lace. Very, very careful. It's very easy to tear your lace at this point, but you just have to be careful. You pluck it or pick it, apply your wax stick, go in with your hot comb to give you a flat closure after wigging. That's how it is. So here I'm still picking. I'm done picking now. I applied my hair wax. You see, don't apply too much hair wax though. After applying your hair wax, you use your hot comb to flatten it. Don't use the mouth of the comb, use the side of the comb. That's how you get a flat edge. Don't use the mouth, use the side of the comb. Now we're done with that side. We're going to do the same for the other part of the wig. You pluck. After plucking, apply your hair wax and you use your hot comb to flatten it to get a very flat closure. So this is me hot combing my closure. See how, do you see how my wig is looking? Very beautiful. Not so much looking pretty. This is the wig. This is the whole wig. Now you've seen how pretty it is. I'm going to show you the other side, the other view of the cap, so you see the back of the cap and see how it's neatly done. I will see what's going on. I wasn't satisfied, so I just have to go back in and hot comb again. So do you see how pretty it looks now? Are you seeing the back view? Are you seeing how pretty the wig is looking? With this wig now, you can style it